Alright, this is going to be a slightly shorter My 2 Cents video than some of the ones I've done in the past. This is one that I honestly didn't have any real plans to do. I was kind of noodling about it, but it wasn't really on my list yet. And then recent events kind of inspired me to go ahead with the idea. As just recently, Fox canceled the 5-season-long series Brooklyn Nine-Nine, only for NBC to pick it up within 36 hours of its cancellation. Because while it is a show that doesn't make Fox a ton of money, mostly because Fox really sucks at advertising their best shows, it is a show with a huge fan base, and I'm here to try to explain to you why, in the hopes that you'll give watching the series a chance if you haven't already. That's really it. It felt like the right time to make this video. It has nothing to do with the fact that if I hadn't made this video today, I would have made a Star Trek video instead, and those take longer to finish, and it's the Charmander Community Day today in Pokemon Go. Or maybe it was a combination of those things. Who's to say? The problem with talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine is that it's first and foremost a comedy, and reviewing comedy is very difficult. There's really only a couple ways you can go about it. You can try to describe jokes in as vague a sense as possible, and then list off which ones you found funny and which ones you didn't. You can give just a general overview of whether or not you think the comedy in it is well handled, or you can describe a couple of the jokes in detail, hoping that they land with the people you're talking to, and they'll go watch the rest of the series for themselves to see more. Because the comedy in this show is so good that I want anyone who is convinced by this video to give the show a chance to experience all of it for themselves, I am going with the second route. I'm just going to say it. The comedy in this is good. It's well executed, it's well handled, it's well written. It's not all going to land with everybody because comedy is subjective. But I will tell you right out the gate that I think this is one of the best comedy series, if not the best comedy series ever on network television. If I'm not mistaken, the show is made by a lot of the same people who made Parks and Recreation, and the comedy in this does feel pretty similar to something like that, or even The Office later seasons of The Office, at least, you know, after the characters stopped all hating each other. Except that this isn't done in that mockumentary style. It is a straight-up situational comedy about cops who work in Brooklyn's 99th Police Precinct. That already is a pretty novel concept. And I think one of the best choices they made when they were putting this show together is the characters in this show are competent. Like, not all of them are equally competent, and they're not like super cops or anything. But they are good at their jobs. They don't have, let's say, as much room to grow into their positions as characters on Parks and Rec, for example. They have a long way to go as people. They have a lot of room for growth as people, but they're good at their jobs, and they should be. Like, I know there's a lot of controversy around the police, and I'm not going to get into that in this video, but even in light of that controversy, I do feel like the job and responsibilities of a police officer are ones that should be shown a level of respect, that should be given a certain amount of weight. Showing them as bumbling incompetents like the characters in The Office, I think would have been a bad idea, and I don't think this show would have lasted nearly as long if that's how they'd handle things. Taking a short detour into that controversy that I mentioned, I do want to point out that this show does address those kinds of things from time to time. Not even from time to time now that I think about it, since one of the principal characters, their entire goal is to reform the police from the ground up, starting with the 99th Precinct. That character is Raymond Holt. He's the police captain character in the show. He is a black gay police officer who has risen through the ranks and hopes one day to become police commissioner so that he can change things for the better. That is his main driving force. That is his main arc. And it is a really good arc in a show full of characters with really good arcs. Every single character in this show grows in some way over the 5 seasons that it's been on the air. There are some characters who grow more, like Rosa Diaz, for example. She starts out as cold, detached. That bird is just not going to shut up, is it? She starts off as cold, detached, and overly aggressive, and over time opens up and becomes a much more well-rounded person. It's still going. Holy crap. There's Amy Santiago, played by Melissa Fumero, who not only goes through an arc where she kind of learns to lighten up because she's very uptight for a while, but where she also gets to achieve her dreams, and it's spectacular. But the character who changes the most is Jake Peralta, the arguable main character of the series, the kind of focal point of this ensemble. He starts out as someone who is a good detective on the crime and puzzle solving side of things, at the very least. The rest of his job he doesn't really care much about. He's kind of childish. He rejects authority, but he's able to skirt by on the fact that he's very good at closing cases. He's a very smart detective. He is by far the best detective amongst these people. In fact, if I were to liken him to any other character on television, it would be Sean Spencer from the USA series Psych, if he were a cop. And the transformation that Jake goes through in this series not only realizing that these people that he works with can be a family to him, someone who doesn't really have a family to speak of. Not only does he grow into a much more well-rounded employee, someone who takes all aspects of the job seriously, but he does it without compromising the kind of person he is. He's still kind of immature, he's still kind of nerdy about certain things. Those are core aspects of his character, and they aren't treated as if they need to be changed, just as things that he needs to temper in order to be the best version of himself that he can be, and I really appreciate that. That's not something you see very often. I've mentioned at this point that this is an ensemble cast, because it absolutely is. I've mentioned at this point that these characters come to see each other as family, because they absolutely do. In fact, in a sea of shows with ensemble casts who come to see themselves as family, this is one of the most believable examples of that. Every character in this feels real, with the exception of the only two characters I don't really like. People who watch the show will know who I'm talking about. But even they get something interesting, funny, or clever to do every once in a while. Everyone on the show has an opportunity to shine regularly, and that's awesome. It's a very inclusive cast, it's a very diverse cast. I actually remember a story where Melissa Fumero and Stephanie Beatrice, I think is her name, who plays Rosa, when they realized that there were two Latina women auditioning for roles on the show, they expected that only one of them would get hired on. But they both got jobs on the show, and they both deserve jobs on the show. They're both fantastic, but they both got them, which they didn't expect, because usually shows don't show that kind of diversity. And it is a kind of diversity which you would expect in a Brooklyn precinct. And so they were both hired on to play different characters, and their ethnicities actually became part of the character. Not so much that it's overbearing, not so much that it consumes the character, but enough that it informs the character, and that's so cool. I can't gush about this show enough. It is probably my favorite show on television today, and I will freely admit that when I heard that it was canceled, I felt genuinely depressed. That's how good it is, and that's how important it's become to me, and I really do think that if you guys give it a chance, if you haven't given it a chance yet, and you do, that it can bring as much joy to you guys as it has to me. And at the end of the day, isn't that what entertainment is supposed to do? Isn't entertainment supposed to bring joy to people? Either way, though, thank you for listening to this, what kind of degenerated into an aimless rant. And of course, if you have seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine before and you like talking about it, let's get a discussion going about it in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, guys, that has been my 2 cents on this topic. This has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.